2. What's up, guys? This is Ed Gregory from photosincolor.com, and today we're going to be looking at your photos, and the theme is red. Here we go. Okay, so this is our live show. We do it once a week, every Tuesday at 11 a.m. And finally, this week, guys, we are nearly on time. We're about 5 minutes late. Usually we're about 45 minutes late, so we're doing a little bit better, and we are trying our best. Today, we had a few issues again, and this week the issue was Dropbox. However, we're good to go, and in this show, I'm going to be looking at your photographs. We set a theme each week, and it's a challenge for you to go out and take some photographs. Last week, we gave you the vote so that you can choose what the theme is going to be, and we opted for red is the theme. Now we're going to do the same thing again this week, where you guys can go on and vote for next week's theme. The two themes this week are what?
Bokeh and event photography.
Bokeh or event photography. So bokeh meaning that blur that you get behind an image, and basically looking at blown out lights and things like that to really show off some bokeh. Or the other one is event photography or parties, because it's kind of the season for parties. So if you want to vote and decide what it's going to be next week, all you have to go and do is check me out on Instagram. It's Photos in Color. Look at my story. Are we live with the story? Okay, we're going to go onto my story. We're going to make it live right now. I think Rosie's doing it. And you can go and vote on if you want it to be party or bokeh. Remember, this is a challenge, so what I want you to do is think about actually what photograph you're going to submit, focus in on the theme, not just like, oh, here's a photograph, it kind of loosely fits into it, but instead make it kind of important that it is what it is. Are you doing that on your phone, Rosie?
Yes.
Okay, cool. She is making it live right now. So we're also going to be, do we have the video queued up as it's 12 days of photography? Show you, no, I'm not. I'm going to show you that video later on. We're going to do that in a moment because you guys are all here ready and waiting. We are going to start looking at your photographs. Now, if you still want to submit a photograph, it's super easy. All you have to do is look in the description below, or it's actually on the Facebook page right now. And there is a link. Click on the link, upload it to Dropbox, and your photos will arrive inside my Lightroom on this computer, and we can take a look at all of your great photographs. So let's jump in and start taking a look at your images. Here we go. So we've got this from Clint McNichol. Again, I have to say this every week. I'm so sorry if I get your names wrong. I'm not the best at reading people's names. But let's have a look at this photo. This was taken, okay, there is no EXIF data on this, so I can't tell you much information about it. Please, I ask this, please leave all the EXIF data inside your photos so we can take a look at what lens you used and what settings you had. That's really important for us. Okay, so this is a great photo. I love it. It's directly on the theme of red. I like the subject matter. It's interesting lines. We've got straight square lines on the left-hand side. We've got those balls on the right-hand side. They look like Chinese lanterns or something like this. I think this is a really well composed image. It's abstract for what it is. We're not looking at a general scene. But I think you've done a really good job, and you've managed to get the vertical line nicely placed, not quite in the center, off center, which gives it some interest and intrigue. And the red balls, you've focused nicely. I think you've actually focused maybe on the balls in the background. Again, we can't see what f-stop you shot this at, but it looks like it was probably fairly high in terms of f-stop, maybe an f5.6 or an f8, something here. But really great work and on theme, so thank you for that. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, this one, what a fun photo. This one was sent in by David Collette. Thank you for joining us again, David. You show up every week, it seems like, and you tune in and you send your photographs, and you are a part of this community, so thank you. Let's take a look at this. Theme is red. We've got a beautiful piece of it's one of those stencils, I guess, like a sticky of a young girl playing, and she's inside some red fabric. Now, I may be wrong, but if I rotate this, I've got a feeling this is the position that the girl was in, maybe hanging from one of those hammocks from the ceiling or something. Very playful, lots of fun. She's even got her toes wonderfully pointed, which is quite impressive, actually. So I think this is a great photo. I don't know if I'd have cropped it to be square, because we've got those toes are right at the edge of the frame over here, and I feel like I would have liked to have seen a little bit more. If I was to change anything, I'd have pulled way back on this photograph. I'd have allowed to see what the girl is hanging from. Maybe I'd have maybe got lower so there was a space between her head and that wooden floor. But overall, I think it's a really fun shot. And if you're looking for a photograph of your kid who is playing, who is enjoying their environment, this is a really great photo. And it's on theme, which was red. The only thing that I have seen, I don't know if you've added it in post, but the blur on the background, my guess is it's a nice shallow depth of field, maybe a f2.8. Again, we're not getting any metadata out of this. Please send this through, it would help us out. But it seems like it's a little, you've added some kind of a blur maybe in post-production. I might be wrong on that. But either way, I think this is a fun, nice photo. So nice work, David. Okay. Look at this one. This is brilliant from Javier Mendez. Is that child dressed as a watermelon? Is that correct? Am I correct in saying that? I believe so, right?
Yeah.
That is, and the child is eating a watermelon. Now, I don't know if you set this up for this photography challenge specifically or as a photograph that you took, but either way, it is wonderfully amusing. The baby is in that stage, you know, when babies kind of plump out and it's chewing on the fruit. I really like it. It's a little low in quality. It's a very small image, so try and send in your photographs at high resolution so we can really get in there and take a look. And again, we don't have any EXIF data. Please send this, because that way we can discuss your photographs in more detail and really figure it out. One thing that I think I would change here, I don't think your white balance is set. So if we come over here and we click here, you can see it's kind of yellow. I'd want to, I don't know if we can find somewhere darker. There we go. See, it's had to take some of the yellow out of that image, but it looks really, really nice. Fun photo. What I would spend a bit of time on, I'd have got lower in the frame. You've nearly cut off the feet, and there's a lot of headroom on there. So I'd have maybe composed it slightly differently and put the child directly in the middle of that image. Let's do one more, then we're going to cut back to me. Let's have a look here. This was sent in by, who was this sent in by? Nitin Jain. You tune in as well often, so welcome back. Great photo, directly on theme. We've got the color red. I like that we've got all of the sweat. I don't know if it's either been raining or if it's condensation on the plants, but I'm going to go for condensation because of the little balls that it is. I think you've missed focus on it. I don't see exactly where the focus is on here. My guess, this front flower. I would suggest, you see the one in front of it is out of focus. If you're gonna take a photograph of a flower, there really needs to be a direct focus on it. Like, this is where we're looking. Maybe if you'd have got in even closer so that you could have got an even shallower depth of field on there. I like the color grade on it though. It's nice and clean and crisp. Again, we don't have any metadata, so I can't talk much about the photo. Please leave that information in your images so that we can take a look at it. Don't send me a screenshot. And if you pull it off Facebook, they probably got rid of all that EXIF data. So try and send me the original. But I think this is a really well composed photograph. And I'm also really impressed that so far we don't have a rose. Nobody sent me a rose. And I requested that, no roses. Although we love Rosie because she's amazing. We just didn't want you to send any roses because I find those photos a little boring. Bit harsh. Okay, so do we have any questions?
Yes.
Okay, we do. We're going to come to questions in a moment. We have a new logo. Look at this, questions. We're going to come to questions in a moment. Da, da, da. However, what we're going to talk about right now is I sit here and I look at all of your photos, and I like it when you take a look at one of my photographs and you give me your thoughts. So I've just posted, that's a lie, I didn't post it, Rosie posted it, a photograph that I took a while ago, earlier this year when I was in San Francisco. It looks like this. It's a super cool retro car that I took in the street, and all of the leather was red. I actually love this photo. I just liked it myself. Is that weird when you do that on Instagram? I just liked my own photo. Feel free, hop over to Photos in Color on Instagram. Tell me your thoughts. If you did it last week, you'll see that I read all the comments and I do respond back to you, and I do take criticism. That's how we improve and get better. So head over to Photos in Color on Instagram and tell me your thoughts on my photo. So it's question time. Tell me your thoughts. Remember, the reason I go live is I get loads of comments on my videos on YouTube, and people ask me loads of questions. So this is where you get to actually ask me any question, not only what we're talking about today, anything photography, get in there and ask me. Cue Rosie.
Hi. So this is from Helen Jenkins Knight, who I want to say hello to, by the way. She tunes in every week and always says hello to me, so thank you.
Hey Helen.
Hi Helen. Her question is, I'm a beginner and focus a lot on getting my settings right. How do I start to get more creative?
Settings versus creativity. That is a great question, and one that everybody struggles with, no matter if you're right at the beginning or if you've been working for a long time. What happens is we want to capture an image, we have to get the settings correct. But before we can even do that, we have to know what we want to take a photo of. So creativity comes before settings. So you want to think about what's the final image, not just like, let me nail my settings and then how do I get creative? It's the other way around. What do you want your photo to be? What is the ideal result for this image? Okay, I want to take a photograph of this computer and I want to get a nice shallow depth of field and I want to get all those things. Okay, so that's the result that I want. That's the creativity there. So then I jump into my settings and I figure out what settings I need to get that result. So that's the main thing, is creativity comes before settings. Second of all is, I'm going to tell, in fact, you know what, I'm going to tell you guys how I learned photography. Because this is how I did. I have had no formal training whatsoever in photography, but I now run a production company and this is what we do. What I did was I was obsessive about it and I loved it, but I didn't have all the skill set. So I kept on taking photographs and I had all of these settings, the exposure triangle and everything that I could work on, but it was overwhelming to me. So what I did was I set myself challenges, which is kind of why I set this up. So for one example was I went out one day and I said, I'm going to photograph doors, like doors of buildings. And the only thing I was allowed to change was the focal length. So I'd just allow my settings to be on auto and I would walk close to a building and then I would have a wide angle lens and then I'd walk way back and then I'd zoom in and I'd see how did that feel differently. Another time I went out and I photographed people's feet as they walked through the street and I was only allowed to change the aperture. So that means I could change the depth of field, but I had all the other settings on auto. So I could learn, oh, how does aperture change the feeling of something? So challenge yourself. Go, okay, I want to take this photograph, but I'm not going to allow myself to change anything but the aperture. So I'm just going to learn that skill set. And then, this is a long version of to answer this, but then within creativity, you learn once you've figured out how to take a certain style of photography with a certain number of settings, focus on that and take hundreds and hundreds of photographs and in different situations use those settings and really nail it. So when you're in that scenario next time, you don't think about, oh, what shall I do? You just second nature, oh, this lighting here, I'm going to, because I want a shallow depth of field, I'm going to go to f1.8, ISO 6400, and a shutter speed of 1/250th. Boom. And you can get in there and do that. So creativity comes first. Settings are something that you must rehearse and practice so you can come back and get the results that you wanted. I hope that answered your question and some other people's questions if you had it. Any more questions?
Yeah.
We have the question time logo again, just because I like it. Question. Oh, where are we going? It went. That was good. Questions. Let's go again.
Okay, there's two related questions. What's the best place to buy used lenses? And then someone else wrote on that question, is it worth buying a 10-year-old camera?
Okay,
you know, blah, blah,
so
blah.
used equipment. Buy it from an authorized dealer. I wouldn't buy used equipment from eBay because you literally don't know what you're going to get. The lens might be broken. They might package it incorrectly to send it to you. I know that B&H Photo, Adorama, they both have used departments. You're paying more money than you would do on eBay, but they're authorized. So they'll take it and they'll check it and they'll clean it and they'll literally let you know what's wrong with it. So that's what I would do there. In the UK, or in fact globally, you can go to KEH, Care. That's a really great place and they have all sorts of stuff. That's for more contemporary equipment. That's where I'd shop. Now, if you want something older, where you're like, oh, you know, it doesn't really matter if it's perfect or not, but I want to get the feeling, eBay's great for that. I bought old lenses on eBay. I didn't buy a lens that I wanted to use professionally, but I did buy a really old 50mm lens to go on my old Nikon film camera so that I could photograph with an old lens on an old camera using film so that it all tied into that feeling. So I'd go and do that for sure. You're going to pay a lot less and there's a risk that it might not work. But that's kind of a fun thing to do if you're buying older equipment. Now, to then talk about, is it worth buying older equipment? 100%. Like, if you want to be a professional digital photographer, I wouldn't buy a digital camera from 10 years ago because the technology has changed so much. If you want to learn and practice on digital photography, then go buy a Nikon or a Canon or a Pentax or something like that they have all these different lenses for, so you can practice on that old camera, and as you build your lenses, you can just convert those into new bodies, so 100%. But if you want to go and buy an old piece of equipment, definitely go and buy it and learn it. If you want to go and learn how to, I don't know, you want to start doing landscapes, but you're a bit unsure if you want to, go buy a really old wide-angle lens from 1972. If it works, great. And then you can go on shoot manual, you can figure it out. However, it might not be the sharpest lens. It might be a little bit scratched, but who cares if you're practicing? You might be able to pick up an amazing lens for 50 bucks, you know? So is there a use for it? Yes, but I wouldn't recommend going online to eBay to purchase something that you definitely want to use professionally because you just can't guarantee what you're gonna get. Okay, let's move on, and I'm gonna jump back in here and I am going to look at some more of your photographs. And let's move on to this one. We have more photographs coming in from you guys, so keep on sending them in. Wow, Rene Lucha. Beautiful. Now this is absolutely on brand for what, well, on brand, on topic, on subject. The theme was red, and you've done this wonderfully. I really love the way you've captured this portrait image. Nice skin retouching. We've got lots of detail in the skin, so you've done a wonderful job there. You used a beauty dish. I can see that by looking at the reflections in the eyes. And the reason why a beauty dish was important for this is you've got the fast fall off of light, meaning she's well lit here, nice, a little hot on the forehead and the cheek, but I kind of like that. She's looking into the light, but look at the drop off around into the hair and into the shadows down the side. It's a really beautiful photograph. It's a nice tight crop, and I really like a crop like this. Like, don't show us more than what we need. The expression on the model is really wonderful, and you've nailed the focus on the front eye. Now that's really important. Often people ask, where do I focus on a portrait? Is it the eye at the back, the eye at the front, the tip of the nose? Whichever eye is closest to the lens, that's where you focus, because that's where automatically we're going to look. You've toned the lips into the her I don't know what it is, her veil-y type thing. My guess is this a look towards Little Red Riding Hood? Is that something, Little Red Riding Hood?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's the three wolves, isn't it?
Yeah, no.
No.
It's
Three
pigs and one
Three
wolf.
pigs
And one wolf.
and one wolf.
Yeah, with the granny.
But what's Little Red Riding Hood got to do with that?
Well, she goes to visit her granny and the wolf follows her and then he eats the granny.
It's not a very nice story, is it?
And then he pretends he's the granny.
That's
What big
terrifying.
eyes you have.
That's terrifying. Don't tell your children that story.
You've never had
I
that?
have, but I've forgotten, because I always get confused which ones have the pigs and the wolves and the girls and the spiders and the, I don't know.
Spider?
That's Little Miss Muppet, sat on a tuffet.
Yeah, but that's a nursery rhyme, isn't it?
Oh, guys, I'm a photographer. I'm not very good at my nursery rhymes. Anyway, Renee, is this Little Red Riding Hood? I think it probably is. Beautiful photograph. I think you've done a wonderful job at retouching. There, I love it. Congratulations. Here we go. Okay, red. It's a red car. And I like that. Now, what I like that you haven't done is you've not desaturated everything around and just left the car red. I think it's a nice focus. Somebody tell me what car this is. Somebody that's into cars. I don't know what it is. Oh, look at the door handles. That's cool. Do you press it and it pops out? Either way, that's a cool car. I personally would have moved backwards. My guess is you're stuck because there's another building behind you. I may have gone landscape on this so that you would have seen a little bit more breathing room each side of the car. And then, but outside of that, I think it's a nice photograph. It's a little bit dark at the front, and I've wanted to lift up these shadows to really bring out the car a little bit more. But it's really, really great. So nice work. I just think it's a little boring, to be honest with you. It's a picture of a car on a street. So it's really good. Oh, we've got some results in already. It's quite striking this week. Last week, between blue and red are themes. It was 51 to 49. And this week, so far, it is...
Bokeh is at 87.
Bokeh.
Is at 13.
Bokeh is winning at 87%, so my guess is you guys really want to show me your amazing bokeh photography. We're going to have a little bit of a look at that shortly as well. So I'm going to show you some examples. Okay, let's look at this one. So home data. Beautiful in the color red. We've got lots of red in this image. What a great photograph. She's covered in paint. I don't know if it's from one of those paint runs or if this is more of a religious painting. Either way, I think this is a nicely captured portrait. I like that the focus is on the eye here. She's not looking at the camera, she's looking to somebody else. It's a very interesting dynamic shot shooting from behind. It's kind of using the theory, if you know it, of the spiral of those, what are the numbers? They were used in the Da Vinci Code, but whatever it is, those numbers 1, 2, 2, 3, 7, 5, 12, you know those numbers, you get the spiral effect. It looks like that's how this has been done, which is a really, really great job. I think it's a little warm. I think that the skin tone on here, it's all just a little bit pink. So I'd want to pull into the blues a little bit and get away from the pinks. That for me, to my eyes, looks a little bit more natural. And also be careful you've blown out the cheek. The cheek here, it's a little, if I take down the exposure way down, you can see there's no detail in the cheek, so you just overexposed that. So definitely watch your exposure. Guys, shoot for the highlights, not for the shadows. So therefore, make sure all of your highlights, wherever the hot point is to something, so I'm gonna shoot here, the hot point is my forehead because I've got lights here, or the table. I'm gonna expose for this area or the table so that I can always bring those highlights down or lift the shadows in post. If I expose for the shadows, all these highlights are going to be completely blown out. And that's a little bit what's happened just here. But nice photo. So this is from Jarko Huing. Okay, it's on theme, it's red, but there's no real context. It's just a red object next to a wall. If you'd have got a different angle, if you'd have gone for a really super shallow depth of field going down the street, this is just a fire hydrant. next to a wall. So I think you need to look at your composition, look at your framing, look at contextualizing the image. At the moment, it's just a fire hydrant. With it, I don't care for it. I don't know what it's doing. I don't know what its importance is. Apart from it fits into the theme of red, which is great, but give me some context for it. Okay, let's keep going. Ooh, we look like we've got some tomatoes, as I would say, or tomatoes, as Americans would say. This is an interesting photograph, but let's talk about this image a little bit. It is a little overexposed, and it's a little flat. So it's really hard because there's so much red. We've focused in on this seed here, but I think if I'm going to look into this, my guess is shooting 1.8 on this. F4, oh, 85 mil. So you're on a 85 mil. So my guess is you're all the way in tight, shooting like a macro, so that your depth of field is really small. I think it's too small because I can't focus anywhere on this image, and then there's too much red. So a way to get around something like this is kind of interesting for how you would do this. If you're going to shoot towards something which there's loads of red, if I'm shooting onto it and it's just a red wash, there's nothing going on. If I was to take a black piece of card and stand it down one side and then photograph exactly the same thing, what you do is you introduce black as it's called a negative fill. It's like a negative reflection, meaning it adds shadow. It adds that extra layer of depth to something. So you could have got some more shadows happening on this and brought a little bit more focus in. For me, it's just a little bit blown out, wide, and it's just flat as a color. So Chris Briggs, I like your effort with this. I would chop some more tomatoes and have another go. That's what I would do, because I think that you've got something, but you can get something more out of this. Okay, one more photograph, and then we're going to go into some more things. Let's talk about this image here. This looks like a sculpture inside a park looking up to some huge tower in the background. Now, my guess is this is shot at somewhere around f8 to f11. Lots of depth. You've got a little bit of a blur here on the tree because our focus is back here, but we've still got all of the depth. The color is exciting, it's dramatic. I actually like it that you've cut the floor off and you've cut off the edges of the sculpture, because it brings in the focus to where we're looking. That frames this tall building. The sky is beautiful and blue. You've got the nice wispy clouds. It's great. I would say that there are a few other options you could have done with this. You could have got in close to the sculpture, and you could have brought your f-stop down to f2.8 or f3 and actually blurred some of the sculpture out. But I think what you've done there is really interesting as a photo, and the colors, they look real. It's very dynamic as an image. So Nicholas, I think you've done a really good job. Oh, and that's the Space Needle in Seattle. Yeah. It tells you right there in the title. I should start reading that.
Someone
oh, and it's F.
Doesn't recognize it.
I'm so sorry. And it's also F8. I said F8, so that was a good guess from me. It's shot at 40 mil. I think you've done a really nice job with this image. It's an interesting, I've seen actually lots of, the reason I don't recognize it is I've seen lots of photographs of this, and it's always wide and it's from the other side of the city or whatever. This is a very interesting photo. So you brought a new angle to something which we've all seen many times. So really, really nice work on that. Okay, so what we're gonna do now, we're gonna come back to me, we're gonna talk about a few other things. Remember, if you want to vote on next week's theme, your choices are bokeh or event photography. All you have to do for that is go onto Instagram and you can vote there. You can also hop over to Instagram, have a look at my photograph, which is in the theme of red, and you can leave me a comment just there telling me what your thoughts are. Now, each week I like to share a video and something with you that either I found on the internet, one of us guys have found on the internet, or one of the videos that I've made previously. And as it is the holiday season, I wanted to talk a little bit about this video that I made a few months ago that, to be honest with you, I probably should have waited and released at Christmas and this time, but I just got excited by it. Me and my good friend Daniel Cooper made this in my studio here in Vegas. It's called the 12 Days of Photography. We're going to play a short part of it right now. This video gets a little bit more silly as we go, so please check it out. And as it goes into Christmas, definitely share it with people. And if you know anybody that's getting a camera for Christmas, share this with them, because I actually think there's some pretty interesting information here. So let's roll some of that video.
On the 11th day of photography, YouTube said to me, own too much gear. Super fast computer, no exposure, triangle, think composition, always tell a story, histogram, perfection, shoots in RAW. Check your ISO, your f-stop, and your shutter speed, and you will make loads of money. Number 12. On the 12th day of photography, Ed Gregory said to me, just have fun. Own too much gear, super fast computer, no exposure, triangle, think composition, always tell a story, histogram, perfection, shoots in RAW. Check your ISO, your f-stop, and your shutter speed, and you won't care about the money. One more time, really fast, you know the words. Just have fun, own too much gear, super fast computer, know the exposure, triangle, think composition, always tell a story, Instagram, perfection, shoots in RAW.
Okay, so you can see that that video is a little bit silly. Sorry about that. We got a little picture of Ray there. You got to see Ray. Ray is, he switches all of this stuff. He's the tech guy that makes all of this happen. Although we just messed that up just a little bit there. But you can see that that video is a lot of fun. Ray, why don't you go back on the screen and say hello? Let's bring Ray in. Here we go. Where's Ray? There we go. Okay, so let's come back to me briefly. We're still over on that other. There we go. So go check out the video. It's called the 12 Days of Photography. It slowly gets more and more silly as we go. I just wanted to share it with you. Let's keep going and look at some photographs. Oh, I'm getting them all in a funny order today, and I've just realized why. Give me 1 second, guys, on my computer. If you don't know how to do this, by the way, when you're on your computer, you can actually change the order in which your photographs come through. And I'm trying to remember how to do it now. Photo, edit it, no, how do I? Why can't I? Oh, I need to be, so you need to be in the library module for this one. Like so. And then you can come in here, view, sort, and I've got capture time, and I'm going to change it to added order. That way, I can actually keep track of which ones we've looked at and which ones we haven't looked at. So I'm going to go back to the beginning. Oh, and would you look at this? We have a rose. Our first rose has come in. Thank you. I had requested not to send in rose photos. Maybe you did it as a joke, Addy, Schiller, or maybe you didn't tune in last week, or maybe you just ignored me. Or maybe Kev's put this in from downstairs to wind me up. Anyway, thank you. This is a photograph of a rose. I will talk about it, actually. It's quite a great photograph of a rose. You've got the focus nice in the center of the rose. It's blurring on the way out, and you've even got a bit of some other plant life in front of it to add some focus. So, nice work.
Kev said he accidentally dropped that one.
Thank you, Kev. Kev's downstairs. He's the one that actually runs the live stream to you guys, so he's dropped that in just to annoy me. So thank you, Kev. Okay, Addy, it's a pretty good photo, actually, so nice work. Let's keep going. This is red, most definitely. This is somebody, it looks like a market or somewhere where they've got the meat on sale. I don't know if it's one of those lights that keeps things warm, or it's just a red light. I like the feeling. I like that you've got some blur in the side here where there's some focus going on. From Ben Lunston. I think that I wanted you to be a little bit lower and focus more on the lady working on something, or get in a little bit tighter. But outside of that, you know, it's a nice photograph. It's a little bit snapshotty. Okay, let's look at this one from Don Mandley. Brilliant. Look at this. This is red on red. This is, I don't know if you stitched this yourself. Is that got peanut shells? monkey nut shells as its ears. That's brilliant. I absolutely love it. Holding a heart. Whoever you gave this to must have loved this and cherished it, because what a fun character. I love it that you photographed this on a red background. I don't know if you did it specifically as this challenge this week, but I think you've done a great job. I like the shallow depth of field. To do what you've done is you've added scale to something which is so small. So you've got in nice and close, 40mm, yet f14, and you've still managed to get that depth of field. That's because you've almost treated this as a macro photo. To give scale to something so small, it's really nice to add that blur, and you've shot down from above like it was a child to make it look really cute. So Peanut Mouse is its name. I love it. Very, very cute. Okay, so let's take a look at this one. Theme is red. Maybe it's another Little Red Riding Hood about to go into Grandma's house. So if we look at this, you know, I like what you've done with it. You've got great artistic design here. So you've found a location, you've dressed your model, so you've put a lot of thought into the artistic, but I think what's lacking here is the technical aspect. So we're not straight. Okay, we're a little bit wonky there. We don't have any lighting. The model looks like she's not entirely in focus. So you needed to add some lighting from the right-hand side of the image to come onto her face. It looks like you're in the alleyway, so the light's lighting her forehead a lot. So all you needed to do there, on Amazon, you can go on and get a 5-in-1 reflector. You could have set a reflector just out of the shot to light her up wonderfully. That's all you would have needed. So definitely look into doing something like that in the future. Artistic design, great. Technical, needs some work. And we've already looked at this one. We've already looked at this one. We just looked at this one again. Let's go. Okay, so product photography, we've got from Vincent Boiri. I think you tune in often. Obviously, it's the theme of red, but if you're going to take a photograph of a coffee cup, you've got to clean it. Like, there's a coffee stain inside the cup, and there's also lip from somebody that's drinking. So product photography, you have to put a lot of work into what you're photographing. You can't just stand it up and take a photograph. It's a little bit of a snapshot. So more work is needed there on focusing on how to capture this object as well as you can. But I like the two-tone, the red and the blue. This is adorable. Eva Castro, I'm guessing this is your dog. In snow, so we've got a nice white dog and white snow, and the red is just popping out there. It's adorable. It's very cute. It's a little bit snapshotty. You've shot it at f9. I'd have shot that at f4.54, which would be the limit of your lens, just so that you could have got a little bit of blur on the background to give it a little bit more focus. But I like the title. This is Nico the Romantic. It's obviously a romantic dog just there. He's a ladies' man, or is she a man's man? How do you even say that? Ladies' man or man's man? Man's lady? You never say ladies' man or man's lady, do you? I don't know. I'm off on a tangent today. Has anybody noticed? I keep talking about other things. Rosie, can you keep me on track? Can you keep, what are we doing now?
We have a question.
Oh, okay, let's come back to me. We've got something. I'm going to get to this one. We're going to get to all your photographs today, I hope. So, something new that we're adding to the live show, which is you guys love to ask me questions, and I love receiving questions. And I always give you answers from off the top of my head and the best answers that I can give. But now I want to give you guys the opportunity to ask me questions in advance so that I can maybe do some research or pick out some questions that are really going to tell some stories. Why I've come up with this is I've actually received one of these and I'm going to create a link for this. So you're going to be able to upload a video of you asking me a question. So for this, you can just go onto your phone, hit record, or go on to, I don't know, whatever you'd use on your computer, but your phone's really easy to do. Hit record and ask me a question. Try and keep it under 15 seconds. Hold it landscape, ideally, but you don't have to. And all you have to do, hit record, ask me a question. You'll save that that video to your phone, and then there's going to be an upload link, and you can just upload that. And each week I'll be selecting between 1 and 3 of these. We'll play back that video of you asking me the question, and I'll be able to respond to you. The reason for this is it gives you guys more opportunity to talk to me, and also I'd love to get some of you guys featured inside my live show. So we're going to play back one of those in a minute, and if you guys are ever wondering, well, where am I going to get this link from? Every single week we have to get a link and post it on Facebook and YouTube and everything. I'm going to be creating on photosincolor.com a tab that says live. You have to click on that, and all of the links are going to be available, so you can just go there every week, find what the theme is, find what the link is, and upload it without having to go all over the internet to do it. So I'm going to do that this week, and I'll post that on Facebook. So let's go to this question, and let's see what the question is.
Hi Ed, my name's Drew, I'm from England, and I have a question for you. My question is, I've recently just purchased a Nikon D7200. It comes with kit lens, but I'm wanting to know, what is a good purchase for me for like a next lens, maybe moving into something more professional? What lens would you recommend as a first starter lens? And that's my question. Thanks, bud.
Okay, great. So that was from a guy over in the UK. So please start your video with your name and where you're from, because I'd love to hear where you are from. And I'm so sorry, please do it in English. You don't have to speak English perfectly, and you don't have to worry about if you've got an accent I can't understand. Just do your best, and I'll do my best to listen in and answer your question. So the question was there. I didn't even have playback, by the way, so I've got to remember it because I watched it before the show. It was, got kit lenses on a Nikon camera, what lens should they buy next, correct? Okay, great question. Everybody has this, especially around this time of year, because people are gonna get cameras for Christmas. It comes with a kit lens. Number one, kit lenses are not terrible at all. They are great. You can learn a lot with kit lenses. Are they gonna be the sharpest thing ever? Not at all. But before you go out and buy another lens, you have to figure out what type of photography you are into, what type of photography you want to do. Okay, so I can't say to you, oh, hey, everybody go and buy the 105 macro from Nikon because that's the one. It's not. That's great if you're a Nikon shooter and you are shooting macro photography. Perfect. But decide what you want to do. So therefore, don't go and buy another lens, okay? Go and practice with your kit lens. You know, practice with some landscapes, do some portraits, do some close-ups. You are going to reach the limits of that lens quickly. You're going to be frustrated because it's not quite sharp enough or it's not fast enough and all of those things. But until you know what type of things you want to shoot, you can't make a decision on what lens you should buy. However, if you're going to go in and buy another lens and you want to really play with things, often a challenge with a kit lens is their f-stop, so the speed of their lens will be 3.5 to 5.6, so it's varied, okay? So you can't always get the same f-stop depending on how much zoomed in you are. So try and get one that has a fixed ranged aperture, meaning go get an f1.8, f2.8 lens for something. My recommendation usually is just go and buy the nifty 50, the 50mm 1.8. They're not very much money, and it will send you a huge launch forward because you'll be able to do so much more with that lens because you've got the extra speed, you've got a really sharp lens, you can do portraits, you can do landscapes, you do all sorts of things with that lens because it's the same focal length essentially as our eyes. So that's what I would do. And if you're not shooting on a full frame sensor, so you're shooting, this guy had a D7200, that's a DX, that's a crop sensor. Put a 50mm on there and you're looking about 85mm, which is perfect for portraits. So go ahead, send me your videos and ask me some questions, but right now we're gonna go back in, we're gonna review your photos. So where are we on here? Let me come through and see where we got up to. We got here, we did this one, we did the dog. Okay, this I love. Ivan Matthew, you tune in every week as well. Shot on a 55mm lens, f10. It's a red dress hanging out of a window. Now, I don't know if this is your window or if you were traveling and you just captured this, but this is exactly what we talk about where we have a feature color. There can be lots going on. There's sunlight, there's shadows, there's windows, there's shutters, but we know exactly where to look because the color is what has brought us in to this image. One thing I would have liked to have seen here though is you've cut off the bottom of the shadow of the dress. Let me see the whole thing. Don't don't cut off part of the subject matter. The subject is given a hard shadow. Show me that. Now, I'm being a little bit harder with my critiques because I've had a number of conversations on Instagram and on and comments that have said, please be really hard, we want to learn. So I'm going to start doing that, okay? But nothing's against anyone, it's because I want you guys to improve and learn all the things that I managed to learn over the years. Let's keep going with these photographs. Joe Malik Dem, what a beautiful portrait. Look at this. This is somebody who has worked hard at their post-production. Okay, we can see the hair, the plants, and the hat, and even the skin tones here have all wonderfully been brought together. So to do that, my guess is they've worked hard in the HSL panel. So they've come down here onto the right-hand side, and they'll have gone for the hue. And for example, her hair is blonde, but inside the yellows, they may have pushed it slightly towards the red, which has given that nice red tint to something. And then they may have come into the tone curve and gone into the reds and maybe just lifted that up to give the entire image that red feeling. Either way, they've worked really hard on toning this image, and you've done a really great job at bringing it together. I also like it that she's looking off the screen. It's a very natural, wonderful portrait. Something you'd see in a hat shop who's trying to sell this hat. It's a very natural lifestyle type of photography. So great. Okay, this is a little bit more dramatic here. Lots of storytelling. Lots gone into the artistic design here. Maybe it's a vampire or something like that. Either way, I like it. The color red is in the lips and looks like fake blood on the side of her mouth. Artistic design, great. I think that you have got the head framed too low in this photograph. So if I was to be looking at this and I was to go into the crop, what I would want to do is to raise her in the frame a little bit, would be to crop off some of her head and even crop in the back a little bit so that she's looking into the frame a little bit more. Artistic direction, great. I like the cooling of it. Focus on the color red. Nice photo. Like it's a great photograph, and I like the artistic direction on that. So good work, lots of storytelling. So this is a photograph. It is of red line writing. What's it called? Not LED writing. What's this type of thing writing called? Oh. Neon writing. I really like this. It's a very simple photo. I don't think that there's a lot going into it, but they're always fun to take a photo of. But what you have done is you've got your exposure spot on, and you've managed to, you've captured it really well, which is nice. Let's keep going. Done this one, let's keep on moving through here. A red peg on a clothesline. So what you've done here is you've got your focus on the color red. You've managed to get a nice shallow depth of field here, which is great. But subject matter, does a red peg on a washing line really mean anything? Maybe not. However, the theme was red, and you went out there and you've obviously challenged yourself to take a photograph focusing on something red. So I congratulate you, Abhishek, for really bringing it for the theme. Let's keep going. Is this a periscope? This is Sebastian Lubinsky. You're here every week. You submit photographs. I don't know what this is. It's some pipe with a hole in it. I like it. You've got it's a red object. I can't see what it is. I don't know what the context is. I think that you could have worked better on contextualizing what this item is. If not, it's just a painted piece of metal. So that's really what you have to think about objects. It's either completely abstract or it has to be in the environment. This is kind of in the middle somewhere. But nice work. Okay, let's keep going here. Oh, Taj Fitakraksanti. So you've done something here which I don't know if I love or well, I definitely don't usually love it, but you basically got rid of all other color but red. Now I have a video on this on YouTube for how to do it. Basically you come into saturation and you kill all of the colors on the right hand side here. You're just going to take all of these down to 0, and then you would just leave the color red involved. So that's how you've highlighted red. I don't necessarily love it. It's like one of those posters that you get in a tell somewhere. But outside of that, the framing's nice, apart from you've cut the top of the building off. Yeah, don't do that. Take a picture of the building, try and get all of it. But it's nice and sharp. I'm just not a big fan of that, making everything black and white and leaving something red. Okay, let's keep going here. Ooh, red fireworks and a red sky. Beautifully captured fireworks. You've got a long exposure, so you've got the tails of the firework. My guess is you're on a tripod here. The trees, it wasn't very windy, the trees haven't moved very much. But either way, this is a nice, fun photo. I think it's a little too dark. I want to see a little bit more on this, maybe. A little oversaturated, maybe. But nice photograph of some fireworks. Let's keep going. Oh, we didn't look at this one. I like the color tone on this. This has feeling, this has emotion captured in this. A nice vignette. You've crushed your blacks. It's not quite red, it's more orange, but either way, there's so much going on, yet you've still managed to capture the moment of the anklet being placed. I think this is a well-captured photo. And actually, as a skewed framing, I think you've done a really good job to kind of add some interest to it. So Hassan Habib, nice work. Heidi Beeson, I like this. This is a stranded boat. It's obviously completely been destroyed, and it used to be red, and it's completely been worn down over time. You've added some yellow to the sun. I think you've actually added that in post-production. Either way, really, really beautiful job within this. So nice work. Let's keep going. Wow, look at that. So you've done a wonderful job here. Trapadams, I guess that's your Instagram account. Guys, please include your Instagram account so I can share you and share the love for everything that you do. This one will make it to Instagram, I can almost guarantee. I love the photograph. You've got rid of most colors, but you've kept the reds. You've highlighted the red. I like you've got really low down to the water, so you've managed to capture the whole reflection. You've got focus on the main tree. That there is a wonderful photograph. If I could change anything, I want a little bit more headroom above this tree. And maybe you've over sharpened it, maybe a hair, but outside of that, really well taken photo. Oh, so Abram Evnin, red light, maybe the skin tone has changed, but I think these colors clash. You've got red skin tone and pink background. Maybe that was your style, but I think it clashes too much. For me, those two, you've lost the skin tone too much, and your sensor's dirty as well, so you need to clean that. But I don't hate it as an image, it's just a little bit, the colors are a little off for me, so you'd want to try and tone those together. I'm not entirely sure how you'd go about doing that. Maybe you'd take just the pinks, so you can make it all bright pink, or go all yellow, but just in the tone where it lives, it's not really working. I've just changed the red hue is what I've done there. Maybe the magentas, we could move it. No. Yep, so let's keep moving. Look at this one. Oh, look at this one. This is beautiful. So we have a white light on the background, which is creating kind of a hair light, but it's more of a silhouette light. And then you've lit them with two different colored gels, blue from the side, red from the other side. Shadai Perez, this is a wonderful example of this. Very hard to do, hard to keep that color off the background, but you've done a really, really great job. So nice, and I like the highlight color of red. It's on the theme, you've challenged yourself. Beautiful photo, nice. Red car, outside a nice house in England. I like the photograph. Ian Williams, little bit snapshotty. You're a little high. I'd have maybe shot it in landscape mode and stepped back a little bit. And it just looks a little too simple for me. It's not really highlighting the color red. The car is highlighted as opposed to the color red. Okay, another one of these, Sergio Arrojado. You have got rid of all of the colors than red to bring in the focus. Not the biggest fan of that, but you know, oh, red parrot. Again, the parrot is red, which is great, but the red is not what has brought the focus in. The parrot has brought the focus in. Do we have any more questions though, Rosie? Yeah. We do? We're gonna go, okay, let me do one more photo. Ooh, look at this, Sol Van Schaik. Beautiful, red dress, leaping into the air, captured wonderfully. I love the backdrop on this. I love the color grade. I love the expression. Not the fastest shutter speed on this, 1/200th, because my guess is you're using a flash and that's your sync speed. That's why we've got a bit of motion blur. But you know what? I think it works for this photograph. I really think it works. I think you've done a wonderful, wonderful job. What I'm going to do at this point is, I like to do this at the end. I'm going to jump into the library module and see what other photos we've got. Let's look at this one. The car, your vignette has gone into your car, so you've lost your focus on your front end of your car, which is the most important part. You've covered it with your vignette. However, it's a beautiful red Corvette, and I would like it, but I think you've lost your focus a little bit there. Okay, let's do one more question.
Are you ready? Okay, this is from Joe. How do you edit a photo to change the mood without making it obvious?
Change a photo to change the mood without making it obvious. It's a little bit of a... My guess is you don't want the editing to be obvious, because if you're changing the mood of something, then my guess is that's quite important. So it's going to be obvious that you want them to feel this way. So my guess is, what you mean is you don't want it to be obvious that you've changed the mood. We're talking very much about some like ethereal idea here, because I don't know what the mood was or what the mood is going to be. Anything like this, you always want to think about, if you can see the editing, it's probably gone too far. But changing the mood of something can be as simple as changing the white balance. So you can make it more blue to make it go colder, or you can make it more warm by adding some yellows and magentas to it. Or you can, if it's a really misty day and you were to use the slider which allows you to pull out the mist, the dehaze slider, take the haze away, it's going to add a lot of clarity to the image and make it look beautiful. You can also add haze to an image to really bring in the mood. In fact, go on YouTube and look up my video about the dehaze. How to use dehaze in Lightroom. I do a full video where I change a photograph that at first looks like it's going to be terrible, then I add haze to it and it becomes this moody environment. But you'll see it takes quite a long time to build up that thing. So if you want it to feel a certain way, try and get it in camera first. But if you want to change it later, really think about why you're changing the mood of an image. If you've captured something and that's the mood, changing it's kind of been disingenuous to what is actually happening. So just be a little bit careful with that. Okay, few final things. We're going to wrap up right now. Remember, there are a few things here. Next, we're going to come up with next week's theme right now. Can we bring up what are we on for that? And also, I'm going to bring up on this screen here something that I want to show you for what I think the theme might end up being. What is the theme, Rosie? Next week's theme? Do you have it on Instagram? I'll bring it up.
Bokeh or event party?
It's okay, I'll do it. Let's see.
Bokeh is at 78% and event party is at 22%.
Bokeh it is. Next week's theme is bokeh. Now, what do we mean by bokeh? That is something which has blurred bokeh in the background or foreground. What does that actually mean? That means that something is in focus, something else is out of focus. That blurring of whatever it is in the background, that effect is bokeh. So if we come over to my computer screen here, I'm going to show you some images that I've pulled up on Pinterest that are some great examples of bokeh. So some very obvious ones here, which is a Christmas tree, which is all blurry and out of focus. That is lights that have bokeh. But don't be stuck on things like that. Here we have somebody who's obviously lying in bed and they've got fairy lights all over them. So they've got that nice bokeh effect in the background. That's a great example. But let me show you some other ideas. This is a street where they're focusing something in the foreground and allowed the bokeh of the lights above the street to come into place. That's a beautiful way of showing it off. But there's other things that we can do. We can add bokeh to the foreground. So you can see here, there's a wonderful portrait that they probably just dangled some string lights in front of her face, which have been able to create this. But remember, bokeh doesn't have to be with lights. This is an example where the bokeh is actually the plants. So we're shooting through a very shallow depth of field, and we've really got that plant really in the right next to the lens, meaning that it's really blown out. We've got some beautiful bokeh. Here's another example of that, really nice. And then let me show you two more which are more creative. This is somebody's glasses, so they're in focus and out of focus. Really great idea for a shot there. And then another one here, we've got a cell phone, and with the sharpness here, but then we've got the bokeh through it being out of focus. So basically, to create bokeh, we're looking at out of focus elements. So really focus on how are you going to find something and get it out of focus by putting some lights in front or behind you, or something very close to the lens or very far away from the lens relative to the focal point. And a great way of doing this as well is using a very shallow depth of field. So shooting with your aperture wide open, f1.4, 1.8, something like this will start really giving you that effect. Okay, so that is it for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. We were pretty much on time this week. Next week we are going to be on time. Remember, this is a challenge. So it's not about figuring some things out and going, oh, let me just find a photograph to submit. Challenge yourself and see if you can improve on your photography each week and upload those photographs. I will be posting shortly this week on Instagram and Facebook and everything. For the web page on Photos in Color, there will be a live tab, and you can find out all the information for every single week, and you can start uploading your things nice and early rather than the day before, a week before. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I want to say thank you to the guy in the UK that sent me this video and gave me the idea for doing that. And then I want to thank Ray, and I want to thank Kev and Rosie who helped us put this live show together. This is Ed Gregory from photosincolor.com. Thanks so much for tuning in.